All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak Wadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and the elder bishops of Great Millstone, who rule very well, very beautifully. Double salutations to the Akim and her pushing this gospel in truth and in sincerity to the best of their ability, given to them by Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Peace, blessings, and salutations be unto the elect scattered abroad. May the election of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Lord willing, fall upon your houses. This is Brother Quanah Watts from the Arizona Great Millstone Camp. Come back at you, Lord will, with edifying lesson to the spirit and power. Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Again, Lord will, it is edifying. Lord will, it is straight to the point. And bros had sent this video in the chat. I'm pretty much almost all the way. Just got a couple more minutes, man, left of this video, which, I don't plan on, watching the rest of it, but nonetheless, right, the point that I ultimately want to speak on is, as you see right here in the title, it says Bishop Eli, which is the dude you see here, right? It says on Pastor Jamal Bryant, saying 80% of men don't attend church. So ultimately, Pastor Jamal Bryant, which is a whole nother dude, right, made a comment, about 80% of men, right, and in particular, right, they're speaking on the so-called black men, right? The so-called black men, 80% of so-called black men don't attend church, and this guy, this dude Eli, right, what they call Bishop Eli, as you see right here on the screen, right, basically his response to it, right, or his initial response was, or is, that it's because of the so-called Black Hebrew Israelite movement, man, and he gives, more, reasoning to it, right? You can ultimately go and watch the video. You can type in Real Life Productions, right, and go watch this video, and, watch it for yourself, but the main reason, right, for, so-called black men not being in, these churches, right? Because these are Christianity pastors, right? The ultimate reason is because Yahweh Bahashem Shai is revealing that these guys are false prophets, right? And then they're all about the fucking money, and then even then, most importantly, right, the doctrine they bring, right, the doctrine they preach is completely fucking false, man, right? There's so many fucking holes, within the Christianity doctrine, man. It's just all that is being revealed as of right now. Right, all that shit, right? The bullshit that these pagan Christian pastors, right, are ultimately coming with it's being found out to be false, man. So I want to grab this real quick, and I'm not gonna play the video. This is quick lunchtime lesson, man. Just ultimately speaking on this guy and his reasoning for why the church, right, the pagan church, right, has, less men, But this is Acts the 5th chapter, verse 34. It said, then stood there up one in the council, a Pharisee named Gamaliel, a doctor of the law, had in reputation among all the people, and commanded to put the apostles forth a little space. So he ultimately said, hey, chill out on those men, right? It says, and he said unto them, ye men of Israel, take heed to yourselves what ye intend to do as touching these men. So he came to bat for them, right? It says, for before these days rose up Theudas, boasting himself to be somebody, to whom a number of men, about 400, joined themselves, who was slain. And all, as many as obeyed him, were scattered and brought to naught. So it's ultimately saying, giving an example, he's saying, hey, man, there was a man that ultimately, claimed to be somebody. You got men that followed him, and, he ended up, that whole thing ended up coming to naught, right? He ended up being killed, as well as those that are followers with him, And we've had, many instances throughout time of those same situations happening. That dude that ultimately brought his congregation, I think it was down to South America, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that, man. Or maybe in Africa, he brought the whole congregation and then put poison in the fucking, in the juice or some shit like that. And then what happened, is everybody died. You know what I mean? And when they found him, we're talking about hundreds of people being put to death. And, really that's a judgment from Yahweh Bahashem Shai, but, just to use that as an example, right? The Lord brought his whole doctrine, what he was speaking, to naught, man. You know, it says, verse 37, it says, after this man rose up Judas of Galilee in the days of taxing and drew away much people after him. He also perished, and all, even as many as obeyed him, were dispersed. So we gave you a couple, right? A couple, examples, right? It says, and now I say unto you, refrain from these men and let them alone. For if this counsel or this work be of men, it will come to naught, right? It says, but if it be of the Most High, ye cannot overthrow it, lest happily ye be found even to fight against the Most High. And this, is the reason for, Christianity, their congregation dwindling, right? Because they spoke in that I guess you would call podcast or whatever you want to call it, man, right? They spoke on it, that interview, that it's mainly women. But even then, right, you still got a lot of people that are still leaving the church, women, men, because again, right, the doctrine is not correct, right? You got a lot of information, right, that's coming out, right? And more and more people are starting to question, their pastors, their leaders, and so on and so forth, man, right? Which is ultimately forcing, these pagan, pagan Christian pastors and whatever, scholars, if you want to call them, right, to do more studying, right, so that they're better equipped. But see, even then, right, they still don't have the 100% truth, because as you saw, or when you go and watch that video, right, if you watch the video, you'll see that the guy, when he was answering, he didn't bring out no precepts, man, to answer the question. He didn't bring out no precepts, so the scriptures say, was that Isaiah chapter 8 and verse 20, it says, to the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. And a lot of these, these pagan Christian pastors, man, they do a whole 2-hour sermon and they might bring out like 3 or 4 precepts, man. It's all love and prosperity doctrine. But see, the true prophets of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua are going to come in the spirit of Yahweh Shai, right? Going to be prophesying, right? They're going to be prophesying, right? Because we understand that the testimony of Yahweh Shai, right, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. You got a lot of these people, they sit there and they talk about JC. First and foremost, that's not the name of the Heavenly Father's only beloved begotten Son. The letter J wasn't created until, around 1524 by a man named John Trissino, right? Or Gian Trissino, but it wasn't even established or used in the English language until around the 1600s, the mid 1600s. So what was his name before that, right? And even then, right, they say Iesus Christus, right, which is, where Jesus Christ comes from, right, which that's Greek. But we understand that Yahweh Shai, right, came from the tribe of Judah, right? So he's a Hebrew Israelite, right? So he would have to have spoken Hebrew. When Apostle Paul, right, got blinded, right? The Lord spake to him in Hebrew. The Lord spake to him in Hebrew. So he has to have a Hebrew name, right? So we understand that Jesus Christ is not the name of the Heavenly Father's only beloved begotten Son, right? We know it to be Yahweh Shai, right? Properly pronounced Yahweh Shai, right? Which is the Paleo ancient Hebrew, man. So that ain't, you know what I mean? That ain't the truth, man. Nothing of what they speak is the truth. Again, it's all lies, man. All lies. There was a precept I want to grab, right? Revelations, what is that? No. Was it 10? I think it's 19, actually. Right, this is Revelations 19 and 10. It says, and I fell at his feet to worship him. And he said unto me, see thou do it not. I am thy fellow servant and of thy brethren that have the testimony of Yahweh Shai. Again, right, it's not JC right? It's Yahweh Shai, you know? And if you come, right, in the spirit of Yahweh Shai, you're going to be doing what? It says right here, it says, worship the Most High, for the testimony of Yahweh Shai is the spirit of prophecy, man. You're going to be prophesying, man. A lot of these pagan, Christian pastors, man, they say, JC, but yet they don't prophesy. Which shows you, again, first and foremost, one, that's not the name, and two, they're not coming in the right spirit, man. They don't speak on prophecy. They don't speak on the things that are happening. You got some of these actual scholars and whatnot that are now starting to, speak about, different things that, first and foremost, our elder apostles were talking about, man. And it's because, again, right, that knowledge is increasing in the world, Yahweh Bashem El Shai is increasing, that knowledge in the world, man. So now everybody is, really starting to get hip to what's really going on. Why? Because of the Lord Yahweh Bashem El Shai raised up his prophets to tell, what's going on, man. He said, the Lord said, why? Isaiah 42:9 says, before they spring forth, I tell you of them. And how does he do that? Through the prophets. So now everybody's got questions. Now everybody, all these pastors want to act like, oh, we've been saying that. No, you motherfuckers haven't, man. Excuse my language, man. No, y'all haven't. Right? Y'all been talking about this prosperity bullshit. Everybody can make it. Right? What is that? What do they call it? The rapture and all this other shit, which is all fucking false, man. Y'all coming in a whole wayward ass doctrine, man. Right? Yahweh Bashem El Shai raised up his prophets to do what? Not only to warn the masses of the impending danger that's come, but to warn the masses of these false prophets that are out here, man. And the doctrine and the false doctrine that they bring, right? Let's go ahead and grab this in I think it's in 2 Corinthians 10:4. It says, for the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through the Most High to the pulling down of strongholds. And Christianity is a fucking stronghold. And everything that they teach, that doctrine they bring is a stronghold, man. That's being torn down. Why? Because, again, it's being found out to be false, right? This whole, movement that Christianity brings, that, John 3:16, for God so loved the whole world, right? When we go into that world, it's not going into, and it's not dealing with, right, the whole world as in, the physical world that we're in, man. It's not dealing with that. It's dealing with the world of Israel, right? The Israelites, man. When Yahweh Shai came on the scene, right? In Matthew 15:24, he said, he came not, but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Right? So he ain't dealing with all nations, right? You can read that in Psalms 140, Psalms 147, verses 19 and 20, right? He gave his law, statutes, commandments unto, Jacob, right? And his statutes unto Israel, right? Roughly paraphrasing. Lord's only dealing with the Israelites. So that whole, God is for everybody. That's bullshit. That's a stronghold that's been cut down by, begin with the elder apostles on down, right? This whole free will bullshit, that's been cut down, man. Proverbs 20:24 cuts that, right? Man's goings are of the Lord. How then can a man understand his own way? Roughly paraphrasing, man. So again, right? This is the reason why more and more people are leaving these fucking churches, is because, again, their doctrine is being destroyed, right? Ultimately by the truth. In 1 Esdras, the 4th chapter, around the 38th verse, tells you that truth conquereth all, and the truth is coming out, man. It says, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalted itself against the knowledge of the Most High, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Hamashiach. That's right, man. We putting away that, that false doctrine, right? Because at one point we were in the world following these things, man. But as soon as Yahweh Bashem El Shai brought us out of that darkness into this light, we started to see, hey, that is some darkness, man. Christianity is a powerful fucking drug, man. It's a powerful ass drug, a powerful demon, man. That, not everybody is going to be able to escape. The only way you're going to be able to escape the grips of Christianity is if the Yahweh Bashem El Shai ultimately, foreordain you, right, to come up out of there, man. Otherwise you're going to be jumping into other, false doctrines like Islam or, Mormonism, or what I call Moronism, and so on and so forth. Catholicism, All these different, false religions, man, Yahweh Shem Shai is tearing them up, man. Tearing them the fuck down, man. And soon it's going to be, completely eradicated, man. Completely and wholly eradicated. Because Yahweh Shem Shai is not going to allow, in the times to come, right, when the kingdom of Yahweh Shem Shai gets established, he's not going to allow for another doctrine, right, to be established. Right? All nations are going to be flowing unto, the Israelites, right? In the name of Yahweh, Yahweh Shai, to learn the true doctrine, right? Which is the doctrine that we have now, right? Again, the 100% understanding of the scriptures, right? Beginning with the elder apostles on down, right? Those that, of Great Millstone, and those that ultimately preach, right, that same, doctrine, right? The whole world is going to come under this doctrine, man. As it's supposed to be, right? Which ultimately goes and proves that those that are over there in the land, right, those aren't the true small hats, man. Or those aren't the true Israelites, right? Those are the small hats, But let me go and grab this. Isaiah 14. No, that's not the one I wanted. Where's that Malachi? Let me type it in. Said we should go up to the mountain of the Lord. I mean, that's literally the point. This is Isaiah 2. God, this is Isaiah chapter 2 and verse 1. It says, the word that Isaiah, the son of Amos, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem, which Judah would be, represent, the southern tribes, and Jerusalem would represent the northern tribes, right? It says, and it came to pass in the last day, and it's like, and it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's house, which mountain is ultimately symbolic for government, right? It says, the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, right? Meaning the Lord's government is going to be established over all the rest of these, governments of these heathen nations and so on and so forth, man. Right? Which is ultimately going to consist of who? The 144,000 under Yahweh Shai, right? Under King David, right? Yahweh Shai, King David, the 144,000, right? The rest of the elect, man. That's who ultimately is going to be ruling, right? All of existence, right? It says, and shall be exalted above the hills, which are the smaller governments. It says, and all nations shall flow unto it. And many people shall go and say, come ye and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, Yahweh, B'Hashem Yahushai, to the house of the power of Jacob. And he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of Yahweh, B'Hashem Yahushai, from Jerusalem. So eventually, this is going to be the only, as you can say, right, religion. Really, it's going to be, it's our culture, right, our way of life, right. But if you will, right, for lack of better terminology, this is going to be the religion of the world, man. Everyone is going to be following the law, statutes, commandments to the best of their ability. There's not going to be all these different, religions and whatnot, man, like you see in this fucking world. That's not going to happen, man, right? Lord is going to take all that shit away, which we're seeing right now. The Lord's doing it right now, right? All these different doctrines, man, they're not of the Most High, they're of men, and so they're coming to naught, man. But see, here soon, man, Yahweh Shem Shai is going to erase all of them and establish one world religion, right? A one world government, a one world rule, right? Which is going to be in righteousness, not wickedness, man, and in truth, which is this doctrine, right? The doctrine of Yahweh Shem Shai, the absolute truth, man, right? Beginning with the elder apostles of Great Millstone on down, But again, I just wanted to touch on that, man. Just kind of, hit my spirit, man. This guy's fucking bugged the fuck out, man. That's the real reason why nobody's in the damn church anymore, man. Let alone, right, men, It's because Christianity is being found out to be fucking false, man, But I just figured I'd get my, spiritual 2 cents on that, man, through the spirit, man. Lord will was edifying, Lord will straight to the point. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, B'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, B'Hashem, Rachak Wadash, double honor to the elder apostles, the other bishops of Great Millstone. Till next time, I say shalom.